What she is calling unschooling, we just call life skills. Yep, that's absolutely correct. Now, I've been critical of Kelsey Rhae because she is misrepresenting unschooling to the masses. I'm an unschooling parent of 4 kids, ages 21 down to 13. And unschooling is not just having your kids vacuum out the car. It's not just teaching your kids basic fractions while you measure ingredients to bake a cake. Now, I want to make it clear that learning domestic skills, life skills, is an important part of any home education. It's an important part of anybody's childhood. We all will have a home that we have to take care of, and it's important that we learn the necessary skills to do so. I mean, we see folks all over this app who are floundering because they did not learn some of these basic skills in childhood and they're now having to hack them as adults, or they really struggle with how to cook, with how to budget, with how to take care of their home. But that is not the entirety of unschooling. It is a small fraction. Just because unschooling is not curriculum-based and it does use everything we do in life as an opportunity for learning, that doesn't mean that your basic daily routine is all there is to unschooling. It doesn't mean that you make the kids do some chores and call it good. In fact, in unschooling, we have a child-led educational model, and you don't make your kids do anything. Authoritarian parenting and unschooling are incompatible. Unschooling is about letting kids chase their passions all the way down the rabbit hole. And I guarantee you our kids' passions are not limited to vacuuming out the car and doing laundry. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Unschooling is not for the lazy, uninvolved parent. It's not a way to get your kids to do the housework for you. It's not a way to have your kids occupy themselves so that you can run your massive MLM social media empire. Unschooling requires a deep commitment from the parent in order to facilitate their kids' education. Trust me, it's a lot more work to do unschooling than it is to just purchase some curriculum online and plunk it down in front of your kid and say, hey, we're doing school at the dining room table. I have to know my kids well enough and communicate with them well enough to understand what their interests are and then figure out how to help them meet their goals of learning about these subjects they are deeply fascinated with. But I also have to figure out how to use their interests, their passions as a conduit through which we can teach all of the basic things that kids need to learn. Or better yet, how to help the kids become self-directed learners who teach themselves the necessary skills they need through the lens of their passions. Yeah, it's a lot more work. It's great. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have done it any other way for my children. Plus, I've learned about all kinds of things I never would have explored on my own because I have been there alongside my children as they got to pursue their own interests. I don't want to discourage anybody from unschooling if it's right for your family, but I do fear that you'll get a really wrong impression of what unschooling is based on Kelsey Rhae's content. Talk with your kids, see if they want to be unschooled, connect with them, find out what their interests are, and assess whether unschooling would work in your lives and it would work in the context of how much time you can devote to your kids and their education. Because unschooling is not making your kids vacuum out the car. And it's not just taking trips to the grocery store. What kind of beliefs are common in the unschooling community? Now, I've been unschooling for over 15 years. I have 4 kids, ages 21 down to 13. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation swirling around social media about unschooling thanks to a very large creator named Kelsey Rhae, who has suddenly platformed herself as an expert on unschooling because she recently pulled her kid out of school. And I've been deeply concerned about the ways that she is misrepresenting unschooling to the masses. And as someone who's been part of this community for a decade and a half, I want to share my experience, which is very different to what Kelsey Rhae is representing to all of y'all. Now, let me say here, I live in Portland, Oregon. My experience with unschooling is with the unschooling community here and down the central Oregon coast where we used to live. I know that unschooling communities vary across the country. And I know there's a lot of people like Kelsey Rhae who claim the title unschooling but don't actually understand nor practice the philosophy behind it. Unschooling is child-centered learning. Parents are facilitators of their children's educational experience through the children's interests. It's not curriculum-based, and it's not based on an authoritarian model of parenting. Kids are driving the boat. Their passions are driving the boat. We, as parents, we are there to make sure that our kids have their needs met. There were some folks in my comments, including I think someone who worked at a tutoring center, saying that she sees a lot of religious fundies who call themselves unschoolers and their kids don't know how to read or write. My controversial opinion is that no fundie is actually unschooling. Unschooling cannot come from a place of authoritarian parenting. Show me a fundie religious group where there is not authoritarian parenting and maybe they could be unschooling, but no. Sally asks here about unschoolers as well. Are they anti-vax and anti-medicine? That's a great question. Our family is pro-science, pro-medicine, pro-public health, pro-vax, pro-masking. I come from a long line of physicians and scientists. I believe in public health. I believe in science. But unschooling does attract people who are questioning and deconstructing from institutionalized thinking. And that means sometimes the pendulum swings really far. In my experience, a lot of folks come to unschooling because their kids were being harmed by the institution of public school. And that begins an unraveling where they start to question the validity and efficacy and ethics of all kinds of other institutions. Religion, capitalism, the police state. And sometimes that bridges into medicine as well. And I've seen a fair number of folks who they or their children have had real medical trauma and are fearful of modern medicine. So I don't want you to think that there aren't people in the unschool community who aren't anti-vax and aren't anti-medicine, because there definitely are. But I think for every one of those folks that I know, there's someone like me who's very much pro-public health, pro-vax. And I think you would find that mix in public schools and private schools as well. I think the difference is that unschoolers are constantly questioning. We're constantly skeptical. We're constantly evaluating. That's part of the unschooling self-directed learning process. Unschoolers don't implicitly trust institutions. And I know my middle two kids especially have been really interested and done a lot of reading on the problematic history of medicine in America, of the muddled medical ethics, of the exploitation of women and people of color in order to gain medical advancements in the US. And I think it's important that our kids know those full histories if they want to learn them, so they can make educated decisions and they can go into a situation not blindly trusting authority, having all of the context so they can make good educated decisions. And again, I'm in Portland, Oregon, so my experience in the unschooling community may skew a little bit left, a little bit anti-establishment. And I think it's important to remember, especially in America, we are a massive country with a gajillion different subcultures, and I don't think it's possible to speak for all unschoolers everywhere. I think it's possible to talk about the driving philosophy behind unschooling, what is and is not unschooling, but I think in terms of the culture of each unschooling community, that definitely can vary a lot. So I hope that helps answer your question, but it probably also raises a lot of new questions.